Hey all, and welcome back to Fuzzy Dirty Gaming and a new video going over my experience in leveling to 2k in Trials. Now I'm not going to over the loot too much as I've not tracked how many coins or tournaments I've burnt through, so I don't really know what the profit is in terms of per tournament or hourly rate because it's different times per tournament, but I got well over 100 to 120 divines in raw currency and easy to sell big ticket items and bulk currency. But it is something I've been doing for quite a few days. This is really more to talk about the process and what I learned along the way to hopefully hope you get there a bit smoother if you want to try and hit that 2,000 limit. And until around level 1500, I actually found it quite easy on my normal lightning strike build, just making sure I've got the right units in the right places. But I was able to do some damage at that level to a lot of the enemies. The higher you go up, the tankier the enemies get, the deadlier they get, and it seems to get access to better units earlier on. And at around 1600, 1700, I started losing more frequently. And at 1800, I was progressing very slowly. So I was sort of winning one tournament and then getting eliminated in the first round in the next one. So what I had to do is just have a look at what maybe I was doing wrong that other people were having success in. So I scoured Reddit, forums, YouTube to have a look at what people were doing. And really my problem was I was trying to get my character to be an all-round character so that I can map, do bosses, do the lead mechanic, but there's changes you can make by sacrificing stuff you need in maps like DPS to make trials much easier and almost to the point where you shouldn't really ever lose bar the odd crazy enemy configuration. So I'm going to go through what I think is important for this mechanic, and it's not something that's particularly expensive to do. First thing you definitely need is as much movement speed as possible to dodge out of the way of things and also to get back and forth between attack and defense as needed. The next level of defense that I look for, which I haven't used in a very long time, is spell dodge. So spell dodge was super OP back in the day because you could invest in a couple of points and you basically got 75% chance to dodge all spells. You can get spell dodge now, but you have to get double the suppression that you need for dodge. So there's a keystone you can take that turns your suppression into spell dodge at a max of 75%, but it's 1% spell dodge per 2% suppression. Suppression, although nice, is really quite pointless in trials because it's not getting hit that we want, because getting stunned is either going to cause you to die or cause you to not channel totems quick enough. So spell dodge, super important. There's tons of spells in the game in this mechanic. If you can dodge 3 out of 4 of them, it's a massive help. The next is evasion, by far the most important defensive layer in this. Determination, fortify, all that stuff does very little because if you get a big tanky enemy at level 2000, he's going to one-shot you. Evasion, you can cap out at 95%, which means for normal attacks, 19 out of 20 of them are not going to hit you. This is absolutely massive for channeling totems. If you're against something like Hinakora's Warrior or Goliath of the Night and they just do slow single attacks, you have to be very unlucky to die channeling their totem. It's obviously going to happen every now and again, but on average, if you're only getting hit 1 in 20 times from an enemy, you are going to win much more than you lose. And the next is utility, bringing things into play like temp chains on enemies, void sphere to slow them down, knockback within your attacks. So we know the big knockback build that everyone was running and abusing got nerfed, but knockback still works. You can still knock an enemy back once about every second. It works for keeping enemies away from your flankers or enemies away from totems. Temp chains, you want to get curse on hit, probably in your main attacks is the easiest way to curse an enemy, or you can put it inside your void sphere to make that curse all the enemies. Ailment avoidance, super important. There's lots of chill in this mechanic, and if you don't have at least immune to chill and immune to freeze, you're going to have an absolutely horrendous time. And then other than that, whether your energy shield or life, stack as much as you can, because you are still going to get hit every now and again, but the bigger life pool you've got, the more chance you've got of not getting one shot if it's just from a normal enemy. And that's kind of how I set my character up. So we'll go through it really quickly, but this is not one to copy because he's quite scuffed. I haven't specifically built this character for trials. I've just tweaked the character I had. So in terms of damage, it really doesn't matter. We're going to be sacrificing some damage anyway, and at that point, we're not going to do enough to kill many enemies. But what I want to be able to do is switch back to my proper lightning strike builder if I wanted to. So I'm not going to go making drastic changes. I'm not going to swap out any gear. I might change a few crafted mods. Mainly it's changing the tree and my cluster jewels. So the first thing I've done, the 6th thing is pretty random. I have no idea if it's optimal. So I've got our lightning strike with Trinity and Hex Touch. And then I've linked temp chains to that. So that basically my temp change is going to be going on hit. And then I got knockback support and then life gain on hit. Life gain on hit just to maybe get a bit more survivability because I don't have life gain on hit on my claw, and I'm not going to be leeching much because I don't do very much damage. So this just adds a little bit of a layer of utility. However, you don't really need a 6-link. You could drop life gain on hit. You don't need Trinity because you've got not really going for damage. So you could just run a 4-link. You don't even need a 6-link to get a character running trials. And then the only other thing I've done is I've added in a 4-link of increased area of effect, increased duration, void sphere, and then inspiration to lower the cost. It does get quite a hefty mana cost, but you could just link life tap up with this. I haven't changed anything else other than putting grace into the build because I want to get evasion capped. So to help me do that, I've taken a few more evasion nodes on the tree. I've also taken this cluster jewel here, which I found for 60C, which is maximum life, maximum evasion and maximum life, and then chance to suppress spell damage and evasion. The reason being, I need to take all the suppression nodes I can take to get to that 150 so that I can then take acrobatics to get 75% chance to dodge spells. I've also got a few suppression tattoos littered around my tree. Everything else is either movement speed or attributes if I need some help on attributes. And then I'm going life. I have still got damage nodes allocated, like I've got these claw nodes. I've even got Nightblade, and I don't have Nightblade allocated because I don't want to go changing my build too much because I might want to change this back into my main character. What I think I'm going to do is level a raider separately and just make that character specific for trials, and then I can put my lightning strike character back together again. So what we'll do to finish up is I'm just going to very briefly go through my tactics, and I'll just highlight the first round of a tournament because I don't want to spend too much time going over it because there's lots of videos on it and people like different tactics. I'm just going to go through what I use. First thing I want to point out is units to always look out for. So Oana here has a unit for 800 called Sunset Sage, is the best flanker in the game and probably the best unit in the game. It freezes the enemy of the totem it's channeling, but it also channels from a distance. So it takes out those pesky chaos totems that basically all of your flankers can't get down because they get permanently stunned. The Spear Dancer from here for 600 is probably the second best unit in the game. It works well in every department. Flanker and defense is where I would really prioritize that item. And then again, a bog standard cheap item from Kuratora is the 600 unit that builds walls. Those three are the ones I will prioritize, along with the Thunderbird from Kilowava for 800, and then the Tide Breaker, I think they're called, for 900 from Ikiaho. Those ones are all really good, and they're the ones that I'll focus on. They obviously are better units, but they start to get really expensive. The most I normally pay for a unit is 1,000, and that's a Ravager from Koan because, again, attack, flanking, defending, they play a really, really good role. So we'll go in, and then we'll do the first tournament. So we're just going to go through and see what kind of gear we've got that might be worth some currency. Now, I don't think entrapment's worth anything anymore, but just in case they are, we'll take them. But what I'd normally look to do in the first round is look for tribute. And as it turns out, this is probably the best tribute anyway, because we can get a unit from Toa that is the Enraged Kuakura or something like that. They're really good for 500 units. The others we're probably just going to buy and use them on something else later on. But it's really just to go through the tactics. So what I thought we'd do first is just go through how I look to set up my board. In the first round, I'm pretty much always filling the flanking positions and 2 attackers if that's what I've got. Then a lot of people then just fill out the attackers, then escort, then defense. I like to go 4 flankers, 2 attackers, then I'll put 2 defenders if I've got something decent that can disrupt. Then my last 2 attackers, then my last 2 defenders, and then lastly I'm going to fill out escort because a lot of the time the escorts bug out and don't actually do anything, which is quite annoying. And also some of them can just get in your way, clutter your screen, make it difficult to see what you are doing. For flankers, I'm just going anything that's quick. Anything with a teleport, anything that says mobile works great on the flanks. For attackers, I'm looking for fairly tanky units that can disrupt enemies. They very rarely kill enemies, but the longer they stay alive, the more chance your flankers have got of channeling totems. The same thing for defenders. If you've got defenders with either a mobility skill that gets them to a totem straight away, or things that can disrupt with AoE, they work really well. But again, you want them to be fairly tanky. There's no point having a unit that has no life that's going to die straight away. And then lastly, for flankers, this is just what you're left with. And for me, these normally end up being the bog standard units because by the time you get to the end of your tournament, you've got enough of a board that you'll have these that you can just fill into your escort positions. So we'll give an example here. So this is 6 on 6 and they've got a idol. So I'll just go through the tactics. It's pretty much always the same. You just want to get those totems down as quickly as possible. So the idea is you have your flankers and your attackers. You join your attackers and just really occupy the enemy. You've got massive evasion. You've got spell dodge. Just run around until you see someone channel a totem, then go and help them. The only thing I'd look out for are the spear enemies. They're absolutely OP because most of their attacks either have an AoE or they're actually a spell. So the spear dance, when it thrusts towards you from a long way away, is actually a spell, which is why you're never evading it. So spell dodge can help, but 1 in 4, you're going to get hit. Their quick prod attack that they do has an AoE, which is annoying as well because that will stun you. Doesn't do a ton of damage, but what it leaves you open to is then a 5-second stun where it is going to hit you with one of its big attacks eventually. And then the other one I look out for is the trawler because it puts bear traps literally everywhere. If I say I've got a trawler in my game, I will try and get that down as quickly as possible because it can just litter the arena with traps. So we'll go and we'll do exactly what I said. So Thunderbird's super quick going on flanker. Spearfisher is quick, but actually is quite good at disrupting. So we're going to go attack. Fieldmaster is up to you. It works really well on flank, but it can sort of get in the way. It works equally well in attack. Early on, I think it's super overpowered in flanker because it can stop enemies getting to it as it's channeling totems. Tuatara is best as a flanker because it doesn't do very much else. And then I'll go Honored Warrior and then I'll bring the Sage up with me. The reason I'm having the Sage on attack is its cold spells can freeze, so that can also help you stay alive. So all we'll do is we'll put our Void Sphere down. And then we're just going to do the odd hit, knock them back. Just to wait and see, keep an eye on that screen to see when my teammates are going to start getting one down. So here's one here. Then one here. Oh, didn't see that massive cold AoE. That is one thing to look out for if you've got cold enemies in the map. Those AoEs are OP. Because we got the first totem down, that's pretty much game over. They're not going to be able to come back from that. This is one thing you will notice that your stupid flankers do, is they always target this totem. And this can cost you the game, but it should still be okay. I don't know why I'm not respawning. Would love for them to bring that respawn time. I think it's because they're channeling my totem. I think that stops you respawning, but doesn't bother me. Gives my flankers time to get everything else down. Finally, we respawn at basically the end of the fight. And that's game over. So I played that terribly because I didn't see that AoE and it's still a comfortable win. So let's just double check these. I'm sure they're not worth anything. 5C. Yeah, they're not. So we're going to do one more round and then we will wrap up the video. What I plan to do next is do lots and lots of trials from scratch on a raider that I'm going to build for less than a divine. The idea being we see how much currency we have sitting on our stash tab if we manage to successfully breeze our way to 2,000. I don't think it will take me that long because I'm addicted to this mechanic. So hopefully in a few days, I'll bring a full guide out for the cheap budget ranger. It may not be a divine because everyone's got more than a divine. It might be 2 to 3, but it's going to be a cheap build that if you didn't want to map, you just want to do the league mechanic, you can do it fairly comfortably. So we're just going quickly by our units. I'm going to buy that anyway because I don't plan to buy another unit from them. The Kitava units are absolutely terrible, but a unit is better than none. So we'll go and buy it. And then we'll go and get our, what I call fodder unit, even though the sages are really good. And then we'll go and do the next round and just look for what reward we might want to do. Again, there's nothing good here. So again, I'm looking for tribute over anything else. And there's not even very good tribute either. So we'll probably go here so we can get another siege breaker or whatever they're called to build the walls. These are really good for flanking because they're quick. So we'll replace the Honored Warrior. These things are absolutely useless. So I'll just stick it in attack. And I'm going to stick 1 or 2 people in defense just in case people get past me. It's there to just disrupt. It's unlikely to be necessary in this because they've got 4 defenders. In fact, because of that, we're not going to run defenders because I do not think they're going to be needed. So I'm actually going to go escort. They've only got 1 flanker and it's a warcaller who's super slow. So now I need to look at what I'm going to do. Are there any horrible enemies? No, there aren't. So this one should be super easy. I'm going to beeline down here and try and get these totems because these 2 I should be able to dodge most of what they do. And if not, I'll keep them occupied long enough for my team to win. I don't feel the need to kind of hold them in the middle of this one because they're just all defenders. I'm too quick is my problem. So again, evasion gets the job done. They can't get anywhere near me. They're going to hit me at some point, but by that time, it's going to be too late. Evasion pays off again. The wall bloat's getting in my way. I can't channel. And there we go. Another super, super easy win. So even if you do get unlucky and your evasion fails straight away and you get hit, it's not the end of the world, because when you come back, you've got another chance again to get in and get some totems down. What I tend to do as a last tip is target any area with slow attackers and avoid any areas with the spear dancers, and hope that my flankers get that spear dancer totem down. That's it for this video. I hope it's helped some people out who might be struggling with trials or maybe not quite sure how to build the character. As I say, there is going to be a video series coming up for building a raider and then getting through, up to level 2000 on this, and we'll see how we go, what sort of rewards we make, and how much fun we're going to have along the way. Thank you very much for watching. Take care, and see you in the next one.